Voting restriction is a problem that affects every single person in the United States. On the surface, it may seem simple, when in reality, it is made up of layers of restrictions and processes that make it harder for many people to access their ability to vote. Some of these laws restrict the way people are able to vote, while some restrict the collection and counting process of voting. Wendy Weiser, the vice president at the Brennan Center for Justice, said, "The way a lot of these voting restrictions work is they work by making it harder for just a subset of the electorate to vote. And this tends to disproportionately be voters of color." The Brennan Center also released statistics stating that 443 bills restricting voting rights were drafted in 2022. Of those, 34 were signed into law. Some of these laws restricted the time for mail-in ballots to be received, while others aided the closure of 2 separate voting centers in different small communities of color. Unfortunately, our country is no stranger to the effects of unjust treatment towards marginalized communities. But to have the acts be so blatantly and outright discriminatory, and to have them be committed by the government that we place our trust in, shows the obvious discrimination within the legislature. And while we can talk and complain about the system and the politicians all that we want, no real change is going to happen until we put some passion into it. Our government is trying to silence us, trying to take away our voice. All that means is that it is time for us to be louder than ever. It is time for us to go back to the core beliefs of a democratic republic. That main belief is popular sovereignty. Popular sovereignty is the belief that the power of the government should come from the people. It is a belief that has united America for hundreds of years. It is what drove our founding fathers to fight for freedom from Great Britain. And it is the whole reason that we are an independent country today. So why should we sit by and let our voting rights be taken away from us after years of fighting for them? Groups like the ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union, are leading rallies and groups working towards liberating our voting rights. Supporting these groups and spreading the word can help educate people on the active voter suppression happening in the United States today. If we want to expand our voting rights, we first need to fix what has been broken and end voter suppression. Voter suppression comes directly from state legislature trying to control the electorate's vote. It can come in the form of limiting mail-in ballots or closing voting centers, causing long lines. A perfect example of this was in Atlanta, Georgia, in the 2020 primary election. Voters in the area had to wait in a line over 5 hours long to vote. While waiting, they couldn't leave to get food or water in fear of losing their spot. The long line turned away over 100 potential voters. The number of places to vote has shrunk statewide across Georgia. And while the closures have taken place across racial lines, they have mainly caused long lines in non-white neighborhoods, where voter registration has peaked in recent years, and many people are voting in person on Election Day. We need a push for the reopening of voting booths, not only in Georgia, but in many states countrywide that are facing voter suppression today. In the 2020 primary election, 30% of Caucasian voters reported being not able to vote, while 42% of non-white voters reported being blocked from voting. These statistics show proof of the racial voting restriction laws put into place by state legislature. On top of this, we need to make access to voting even easier. A simple way to do this is to not only allow mail-in voting as an option, but to also expand the time for mail-in ballots to be received. Opening up the voting process in this way will allow many more people to access their vote, and also encourage many more people to vote. Many people work jobs or have children that prevent them from accessing the poll booths on Election Day. So opening up the voting process in this way will allow many more people their access to vote. Unfortunately, our country has a history of discriminatory behavior. In the beginning of the Democratic Republic, the only people who were allowed to vote were land-owning white men. Since then, we have made so much progress. Because of outspoken people, we have expanded the poll booths to not only include women, but also people of all races. But in recent years, as people have come into power, changes have been made and our progress is being reversed. If we want to protect our constitutional right to vote, we need to fight for it and not back down. Thank you.